Good afternoon and welcome to the Strike Zone. I'm your host, James Knox, on this very hot Wednesday afternoon. It is 5 o'clock, and we kind of get going here with looking back at All Star weekend and the All Star break that was the Home Run Derby on Monday night. Certainly titillating, just must see TV. The kid from Seattle, Julio Hernandez, puts on an absolute show. 32 in the first round, 30 in the second round, 62 home runs, but ultimately falls to the most talked about man in Major League Baseball at the moment, Juan Soto. Albert Pujols surprises everybody and kicks out of Kyle Schwarber's finisher and knocks him out in the first round. And then he battled Soto. He made Soto work. There's a part of me that couldn't kind of help myself to think that it was a bit scripted. That let's see how far we can get Albert to go before he ultimately tires himself out and eliminates himself from the home run derby. But other than that, it was fun to see. I was glad to see Pete Alonso fall on his face, especially after all of the recent interactions with Cardinals and Cardinals fans. And we get it, Pete. You're a tough guy, and if you wanted to, you could put somebody in a hospital on any night. But so he loses twice this year. He loses to Stubby Clapp and then loses in the home run derby. But nevertheless, we get to the All-Star game last night, which a lot of action early on. Jeremy Karp, colleague, had a wonderful piece about this up at the Interstate 70 sports media page. A lot of action early on, and then the American League and their pitching. Wow. I mean, just electric arms, one after another after another. He comes out there and they come out there and shut down the National League and get a 3-2 victory. Tony Gonsolin for the National League gives up 3 runs on back-to-back homers by Giancarlo Stanton and Byron Buxton, and that sank the National League pretty quickly. Goldie, Paul Goldschmidt, goes 1 for 1, and his one was a loud one in the first inning. If you caught Roundabout Sports last night as we were talking, I kind of interrupted Jeremy because I was so excited to see Goldie go yard. He does, gives the National League a 2-0 lead in the first inning, but they couldn't get anything else going. So it was one of those things where the American League, and it just kind of shows you that the arms that these teams, whether it's American or National League, they roll out. Boy, every arm is absolutely electric, and the fact is that most of them throw 95 miles per hour to 100, and or in Ryan Helsley's case, hits 103, 104 at times. When I played baseball as a kid, and then coming up through the ranks as well, I mean 95 was a big deal. If somebody hit upper 90s, it was a big deal. Now you're talking about these arms that have to hit 100 miles per hour. You're talking triple digits, and then everybody's eyes and their mouths drop to the ground. But it was not an offensive night. The American League, for the 9th year in a row, wins the All-Star game, and we move on. So the season will get started back up tomorrow night. There's a handful of games on the slate. For the Cardinals, on the other hand, they don't get started until Friday when they're at Cincinnati in the Great American Small Park. That'll be Adam Wainwright and Graham Ashcroft. We'll talk more about that and how the Cardinals shape up going forward, coming out of the All-Star break here in just a second. But I want to look back. I want to look back at the first half of a season that was. The Cardinals are 50-44. They are half a game behind the Milwaukee Brewers for first place in the division. The Cardinals started to come on strong. You hate to see the rain out prior to the All-Star break. If you missed it, Sunday's game against Cincinnati at Busch Stadium was postponed and is now part of a September 17th doubleheader. But, I get that Cardinal fans are diehard. We all are, when it comes to our St. Louis Cardinals. We're unrealistic at times. We throw blame around to maybe not all that it deserves at times. But the Cardinals did it for the second year in a row. They did the one thing that we all asked and we all clamored about not for them to do, and that was they overestimated the durability of their pitching staff. We've seen Dakota Hudson struggle. He's been hurt at times. Steven Matz, that 4-year, $44 million contract is not looking good right now. Matt's coming off the IL prior to, and he would have pitched that game on Sunday had it not been rained out, coming off the IL. Jack Flaherty, the only place you've seen him pitch or his pitcher is on the back of a milk carton. He's been absolutely he's missing. Can't find him anywhere. The Cardinals have tried to patch those holes with guys like Matthew Liberatore. Packy Naughton has been an opener, and Packy Naughton has surprised me on how well he's pitched. He's also come in into high leverage spots, and he's slammed the door. Did so against the Dodgers in the game that they ended up giving up that 6-run lead and losing. But nonetheless, Packy Naughton has been impressive. But here we are again. This is going to be a repeat of what last year's trade deadline was. Let's go out and get J.A. Happ. Let's go out and get John Lester. And let's try to patchwork it together. Sure, you got to the playoffs last year. You also got beat by the Dodgers in the wild card game. The Cardinals right now, if you ask me, starting pitching-wise, are not deep enough to go far into the playoffs. If they continue to pitch and have to use their bullpen the way they are, they're going to kill their entire pitching rotation and their bullpen, and they're not going to make the playoffs, period. The only stalwart that has been in that the 5 pitchers that you started the season with is Adam Wainwright. And even Wainwright has struggled. Wainwright on the year 6-7. He's got an ERA of right at 3 and a WHIP of 1.23. But Wainwright is the bulldog. He's the veteran. He's out there pitching his ass off because you don't have anybody else to carry that load. You need guys to help carry the mail. Dakota pitched well before the break against Cincinnati. We're at a point now where you need to go out and make a move for a starter. Now, are you going to go out and get that blockbuster starter? Probably not. There are a lot of teams still hanging around in the wild card. There's been names like Noah Syndergaard thrown around from the Angels. Pablo Lopez from the Marlins will probably get moved, but that's a little too rich for the Cardinals' blood. So, it leads me to kind of what I wanted to talk about next. And that's if the Cardinals want to acquire Juan Soto from the Washington Nationals. I know it's been talked about ad nauseum at that, but we have to look at it in this way. The Cardinals know that if they were to take the contract of, say, a Patrick Corbin, who is a starting pitcher, on in that Soto deal, they wouldn't have to give up quite as much. Maybe not giving up a prospect like Jordan Walker to get the slugger. He does fill a couple holes. He's a big-time power left-handed bat. Soto certainly has a flair for the fashion. When he first came up with the Nationals, I couldn't stand him. But he's one of the best young players in baseball. We'll get to that when we get to the next topic. But still harping on the first half of this season. The offense has been inconsistent. Oh, Nolan Arenado, up and down like a roller coaster. Tyler O'Neill, per usual, par for the course, has been hurt most of the first half. Harrison Bader, dealing with plantar fasciitis in his left foot, been injured as well. Hopefully will be back shortly after this break. Because the Cardinals, as the numbers have dictated, they are a better team when he's in the lineup. Big surprise. He certainly saves runs. His defensive metrics and his defensive WAR is one of the best in the league. Cardinals are a much better team, and even offensively. You can look at Harrison's numbers over the past couple seasons and see that they've slowly improved. Certainly from the 2020 season, but that's the outlier because every team dealt with COVID. Every player dealt with COVID. Matter of fact, the Cardinals were one of the hardest hit teams by COVID. We all remember them being stuck in Milwaukee and Jack Flaherty keeping his arm loose and throwing against a mattress in a Milwaukee hotel room. But the front office this is a front office problem. Ali Marmol's been very outspoken about what this team needs. Nolan Arenado, remember, your $50 million or your $35 million a year player saying, hey, we need help. The front office needs to show this team that they're serious about winning because the team has been playing like a team that is serious about winning. Comparable to what Doug Armstrong does with the Blues. The saying is the team will show Doug what kind of moves he needs to make at the trade deadline or if he needs to make any moves at all. We'll get to them in what's trending because there's some interesting news out of the NHL there as well that kind of has a bearing on what the Blues may do in the future. But when you look back at it, The injuries. We were forced to see Nolan Gorman because of injuries and struggle. Brendan Donovan, who has been an absolute just a diamond in the rough to find, can play multiple positions, and he's done a very good job in the outfield. He's done a very good job on the infield, and he's certainly excelled at the plate. I didn't think any of us thought that Brendan Donovan would have the kind of first half that he has had so far. And we'll get to that as well, because I've kind of scribbled down some what I believe to be some, awards for the Cardinals for the first half of the season, like MVP, Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, and such. But let's see here. I was trying to pull up some of the stats. You look at batting average for this team. The Cardinals are fourth in the National League in batting average at 251. The three teams ahead of them are the Rockies, Dodgers, and Mets. Rockies are hitting 262, Dodgers hitting 252, the Mets hitting 250. The Dodgers hitting 255, Mets hitting 252, and the Cardinals are at 251. Home runs, you're not going to find the Cardinals in the top 5. Same with runs batted in. Hits, they're second in the league with 802. Stolen bases, they're third in the league behind the Marlins and the Cubs. Cardinals have 62. Even earned run average. The pitching has been okay. The earned run average fifth in the league at 375. But the key is you're looking at the bullpen and the rotation as one. Because, the bullpen's been great, but the starting rotation has, faltered. And they faltered a lot prior to the All-Star break. So, you look at it as a whole. But, and you look at individuals, batting average, like Nolan Arenado is fifth in the league. He's hitting 293. We can only hope that his stiff back coming out of the break will be fine. It's what caused him to miss the All-Star break. Arenado with 18 home runs, 59 RBIs so far in the first half. You look at guys like Tommy Edman. Tommy Edman's hitting 259 after a terrible spring training. So, there's a lot to look at that's positive for the Cardinals going forward. But, I give them maybe a B, a solid B for the first half, because how many games have you blown? Everybody talks about the bullpen, but Giovanni Gallegos is not a closer anymore. Ryan Helsley should be your closer. There should be no ifs, ands, or buts. And so when he comes into a game, everybody tenses up, and you've got to imagine the defense does behind him. But as of lately, the defense hasn't had a chance to make a play because every hit he's given up has left the yard. So the bullpen ultimately gets an A, and it's because of guys like Ryan Helsley. Jordan Hicks has done a good job when he's been in there. Packy Naughton. I'm really happy and really surprised with Andre Palante. Yes, he struggled at times in the rotation as well, but you're talking about a kid that wasn't even expected to make the team out of spring training. So we'll break it down. The pitching's going to get the pitching gets a B+, and that's only because there are parts of the bullpen, guys like T.J. McFarland. They DFA'd Nick Whitgren. Drew Verhagen, he's really a touchdown guy because you can only use him when you're up or down 7. You can't use him in a close game. So, offensively, it's been a roller coaster. Albert, and I don't want to harp on Albert. I really don't. I think his legacy speaks for itself, but Albert's done. You certainly don't get enough out of Albert to warrant not going out and getting another bench bat if you can find one at the trade deadline. Like I said, it's going to be tough. There are so many teams that are still involved in wild card races because the idea of this extra wild card has kept teams in things longer. So going out and trying to find a big splash player that can impact your team, that can really lift your team up to get you to the playoffs is going to be tough. The one thing you will be able to find is relief pitching. And you always can find relief pitching. Don't we know it? As Jeremy would say, Mo knows. Mo knows relief pitching. because that's the low-hanging fruit he goes out and gets every year at the trade deadline. Literally, the definition of insanity. Let's do the same thing every year, hoping for a different result. That's why I hope they go out and make the Juan Soto trade. And I know what has been discussed. Guys like Dylan Carlson, guys like Nolan Gorman. Well, if you go out and make the Soto trade, then you have to stay out of free agency for the next couple of years. Okay. The Cardinals don't do enough in free agency anyway. Go out and get your player. You've got 2 more years of control, and in the last year you have control of him. Trade him. Go out and keep him long enough to get something out of it, and then trade him. Go for it all. I mean, Cardinal fans used to be used to the fact that we knew every year at the trade deadline, Walt Jocketty and even Mo in his early years were going to go out and find somebody. 2009, Matt Holliday. You needed to find another piece to that puzzle, and they did. They got into the World Series, or they got to the playoffs. They lost to the Dodgers in the first round, but you got there. Never mind that 2 years later, you came back from being down to your last strike twice and beat the Texas Rangers with Matt Holliday on that team. Go out and get Soto. You've got to, look, I've heard differing viewpoints. Go out and get him. So it's going to cost you some prospects, okay? The Nationals are ready. They want a couple of MLB-ready players. Hell, try to send him Tyler O'Neill. It's not like he's playing for us anyway. Yeah, you're probably going to have to part with a Gorman or a Carlson. But Soto's replacing Carlson. And he's certainly going to replace his production. I don't know. Defensively, it's probably a wash if Carlson not tipping the scales his way. But the point is the front office needs to show the team, as well as the fans, that they're serious. When you have your manager, mind you, they brought in Ollie Marmol because there were philosophical differences with them and Mike Schilt. That's who they fired, was Mike Schilt, because there were philosophical differences. Yes, and we do. We certainly do need another starter, and we need another reliever. I would take a flyer if I could give up less to get Juan Soto and maybe take on some of Patrick Corbin's contract. I would do it. Patrick Corbin has not been good at all since he's been with Washington. But maybe a change of scenery. I'll get to that in a minute. Maybe excuse me. Grab something to drink here. Maybe a change of scenery for Corbin does him good. Flaherty, Yachty will be back. We've seen pitchers like John Lester, who everybody thought was washed up, coming into a fine job last year. And how many times did he talk about how Yachty was able to get him through a game? Or help him work differently. We don't know. He may be able to do that with Patrick Corbin as well. This is Yachty's last hurrah to do so. You would think that he would have some input, and I'm sure he could help a pitcher like Patrick Corbin. At one point in time, Patrick Corbin was a Cy Young candidate. Let's not forget that. Let's go back to 2019 when the Nationals knocked you out of the NLCS between Patrick Corbin and Anibal Sanchez. Yeah, that's who got rid of you. Jim, yes, we do need another starter, and we do need a reliever. The reliever, I think, is the easy part to get because low-hanging fruit is Mo's M.O. No pun intended. Okay, little bit of a pun intended. It's his M.O. Somebody like a Matt Whistler from Tampa Bay might be a name to look at. There are going to be some other names out there. Chad Kuhl in Colorado would be a name to look at. And Chad Kuhl can do both. He can start for you and be a reliever. And you notice I'm kind of going with these smaller names because I don't think there's going to be any big names that really move. Pablo Lopez was probably the biggest name and will move. He is way too rich for the Cardinals' blood, especially if you're looking at improving your offense with a Juan Soto. Jim also says give him Flaherty. I don't know. Flaherty doesn't. Unfortunately, his trade value right now is not much of anything, and it's because he hasn't pitched. He can't stay healthy. We all know Flaherty wants to go to the coast. He wants to go to the West Coast anyway. He's in LA. He's a California kid. I firmly expect if he can stay healthy and actually, he's turning into a right-handed Clayton Kershaw without the accolades. Kershaw, obviously, the last 3 years has been nothing but hurt. He gives you no value. But, it's tough because the Cardinals, as we sit here on July 20th, and we look at it, we know that the the trade deadline is August 2nd. So it was pushed back a couple days due to the lockout, which, by the way, seems like forever ago. And so that's where we're at. So you would think that, obviously I'm sure the Cardinals have been looking now, but I just, there's not a whole lot out there. And the rumors out there, the only big rumor you're hearing is this Juan Soto deal. Now, I did look up something on MLB.com, and this is a story by, see if I can pull this up here. This is a story from MLB.com, and it kind of breaks it down. Like, here are the 7 potential Juan Soto trade proposals. So the first one, from division foe to Mets hero. This isn't even worth reading. There's no way in hell that the Washington Nationals are going to trade Soto to New York, and there's no way that the Mets are going to give up a ton of prospects to the Nationals only to have those prospects come back and bite them in the ass 3 or 4 years down the road. I don't really understand the thought process here. Pat James thinks that it would be a package of getting left-handed pitcher David Peterson, catcher Francisco Alvarez, who's the number 2 prospect in MLB, the number 20 prospect in MLB, Brett Beatty, shortstop Ronnie Mauricio, who's the 52nd prospect, and 87th prospect of Alex Ramirez. But what did I tell you already? That the Nationals want at least 2 players that are MLB ready now. So let's throw Pat James's theory out the window. The next one is the Yankees. Soto teams with Judge then replaces him. Obviously, the Yankees would get Soto. The Nationals would get Gleyber Torres, left-handed pitcher Nestor Cortez, shortstop Anthony Volpe, which is the number 8 prospect in MLB, Jason Dominguez, the number 39th prospect, and Ken Waldichuk, which is the 72nd prospect. That's legit, because, and Jason Quintana here, he nailed it, because you're looking big market. The other one would be the Dodgers, getting Juan Soto, Patrick Corbin, and cash, and the Nationals would get Dustin May, Bobby Miller, Andy Pages, Miguel Vargas, and Outman. The last, and outfielder James Outman. The last 4 being prospects, being pretty decent ranked MLB prospects. Number 26, number 47, number 70, and number 17 from the Dodgers. And if the name James Outman rings a bell, he used to be in the Cardinals organization. And then, of course, they pitched the one of the Padres getting Juan Soto for shortstop C.J. Abrams, left-handed pitcher Mackenzie Gore, left-handed pitcher Adrian Morjan, outfielder Robert Hassel III, and outfielder Joshua Mears. The number 23rd prospect in Hassel, and then the number 8 prospect in Mears in the Padres organization. I think a lot of these are pipe dreams. Like, I get it. You're looking at big market teams. Okay, so Soto goes to L.A. Soto goes to the Yankees. Soto goes to the Padres. And I think the other 2 were, the other one was the Rangers and then the Mariners. So, let's kind of rein it in here a little bit, Sparky. There's, I haven't heard any other team being interested in Juan Soto or there being any other talks other than to the Cardinals. And it was reported before the All-Star break that the Cardinals had been in talks with Washington about their, improving their offense. Could be Soto, could be Josh Bell, could be. So, we'll see what happens. I guarantee you the next 11 days things are going to heat up even more. Hopefully we have a trade deadline that's worth talking about in St. Louis. I think you go get him. I don't want to give up Jordan Walker, but if I had to give up Tink Hence, which is a big-time pitching prospect in the organization that the Cardinals are high on, or even somebody like Mason Wynn, and that one hurts because you've had a hard time finding a shortstop anyway, but again, he's a possible two-way player. He does add a little bit more value to that organization over in Washington if that's how you want to go. So, some St. Louis some sports trending news, if you will. The Cardinals get back in action on Friday. It'll be Adam Wainwright taking on Graham Ashcroft for the Reds. A little 3-game series in Cincinnati to start the post-All-Star break, and then then the Cardinals come home for a little bit. But so Wainwright again 6-7. He's got an ERA of 3, a 1.23 WHIP. He'll be opposed Graham Ashcroft 4-2, 4.45 is the earned run average there with a 1.35. So the Cardinals will look to continue their winning ways against the Cincinnati Reds, a team that they did take 2 in a row from before the All-Star break, and then, of course, the postponement on Sunday. The Cardinals' batting leaders for the first half of the season, we're going to talk about one man and one man only, and that's the man who homered in the All-Star game last night, Paul Goldschmidt, leading the team with a .330 average, 20 home runs, and 70 RBIs. As the temperatures have gotten hotter, so has Paul Goldschmidt's bat. But he didn't have that lull at the beginning of the season like he usually does. He just come out, he was geared up, and certainly earned his All-Star nomination. Ryan Helsley, Miles Michaelis, and Nolan Arenado were the other 4. And then, of course, El Hombre, Albert Pujols was the big name there. And Pujols, of course, eliminated in the semifinals of the Home Run Derby Monday night by, hopefully, future Cardinal Juan Soto. All right, more trending news, St. Louis sports news. In an interesting move today that was reported by the Athletics' Jeremy Rutherford, Matthew Tkachuk of the Calgary Flames notified Calgary that he would not be re-signing with them after Johnny Gaudreau signed with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think we all waited for this domino to fall. Obviously, NHL free agency started on the 13th of this month. That once Johnny Gaudreau was gone, Johnny Hockey was gone, that Tkachuk would go to the Calgary Flames and say he was not going to re-sign. This opens the door for a trade. And, of course, the big news is obviously the Tkachuks live in St. Louis. Big Walt, his daddy, Keith Tkachuk, played in St. Louis. And now, of course, where there's smoke, there's fire, I'm sure. And those flames will get fired or get fanned as we progress through NHL free agency. So it's a lot to kind of look at there. The Blues have really not done a whole lot. Obviously, they let David Perron walk. He signed a 2-year, $9 million contract with the Detroit Red Wings. The Detroit Red Wings have become kind of the Blues of the Eastern Conference. They now have Ville Husso, David Perron, Robbie Fabry, Jake Wallman. So there's a lot of Blues players over there now that were with the Blues recently. So, and we hate to see David Perron leave, but it is what it is. It's all business. Of course, Doug has signed Martin Frick. He's a fourth liner. So is the guy that they I can't think of his name. Isn't that something else? That obviously we beat him with Boston. He was with Florida just recently, and why am I drawing a blank? But I am. So anyway, I guess it wasn't that important. Yeah, Jeremy, I'm glad you commented. Thanks for saving my rear end there, because I could not think of his name to save my life. I kind of wonder as well, and it makes me think that there's going to be another deal in the works. Right now, you're looking at an overabundance of left-handed defensemen on the left side. Okay, and you're going to have to clear up. Right now, I think between the defensemen that you've signed, you have $18 million of cap space filled up there. That includes the new deal with Nick Leddy, Torrey Krug, obviously the newest deal, the $1.9 million for 1 year with Nico Mikkola. You got the dead weight in Marco Scandella on the left side as well. So I think that when it comes down to it, Doug's going to have to make another move, and I wonder if that's it. And you're going to have to try to, what in the world? You're going to have to try and replace David Perron's productivity, which is going to be a problem. I kind of like the deal that, with Duncan Keith retiring in Edmonton, that maybe you send one of the left-handed defensemen to Edmonton for a guy like Jesse Puljujarvi, who is he has all the talent in the world. He's just not excelled with the Edmonton Oilers. And if you've watched any of their games, it's all Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So I kind of have to think, too, it's going to be interesting. And that's something we'll have to keep an eye on, because I guarantee you those rumors are going to really they're really going to pick up as we go through the next couple of weeks of free agency. Nolan Acciari was who I was thinking of. He signed a 1-year deal with the Blues. He's a third liner. He's got last year with the Panthers. He signed a 1-year, $1.25 million deal last year with the Panthers, recording 46 points, 27 goals, and 19 assists in his time there in Florida. He's a 30-year-old winger. He's 5'10", 209 pounds, more or less a kind of a third liner, real heavy player, right up Craig Berube's alley. And then to replace Billy Husso, they signed former Red Wing backup goaltender Thomas Greiss to a deal as well. So, but that's really the kind of the nuts and bolts of it, is what's going on with NHL free agency, man. Out of the draft and the trade deadline starting, or not the trade deadline, but free agency starting, we really saw a pickup of action, a big-time flurry, and now things have really quieted down, which this to me is when Doug Armstrong strikes. This is where he's going to, like a thief in the night, come in and, really take a GM for all he's worth. And that's why Doug Armstrong is one of the best he is, one of the best GMs in the game. So he knows how to fleece them, that's for sure. So that's pretty much going to do it for our show here, as something that Jeremy does at the end of his shows. Also want to include the suicide hotline, which is 988. 988. They shortened the number. I almost gave out the long number again. I don't know what. For some reason, I'm not here today, I guess. Kind of all over the place. But, just remember that when it comes down to it, you're not alone, okay? And that, no matter what you're told or how you feel, your self-worth is important to those around you. You mean the world to somebody. So keep that in mind. We'll take care of each other, take care of yourself, and everybody have a Hollywood kind of evening.